Slowly but surely up the stairs, taking small deliberate steps, being careful to make my way up one of those 2 flights of stairs. Each step is still unsure, my balance betraying me as each footfall hits each plane of my way up. I keep having to pause and make sure I'm steady and strong enough to make the next one. At last, the summit of the first flight. It felt like it had taken hours to get there. With countless times, I felt like I was going to fall back down the steps. One more flight to go before I could ultimately take a shower. A blessed shower to clean myself after being in the hospital for a whole week. I have to take each step, 1 foot in front of the other. My doctor called it an arterial venous malformation, a deformation in arteries and veins, usually in the brain or spinal cord. In layman's terms, an aneurysm. My aneurysm erupted in the brain and burst 26, almost 27 years down the road. It hit the left side parietal lobe, which deals with spatial navigation and some motor function and balance. What the doctors didn't tell me when I left was about the depression and the PTSD-like symptoms that followed. I don't even really know how it happened, just that it happened at the worst time. My fiance, Mike, had left for his deployment, leaving me alone. Again. After getting stationed back stateside after 2 years in Japan, we got to spend about 2 months together before he had to fly out to meet his ship. Gone for another 6 months. I helped him pack that last night, meticulously adding the multitude of items required for a deployment. Everything from uniforms to liberty attire to food items that you can't enjoy while on a boat in the middle of the ocean went into those bags. We pulled an all-nighter so he could be ready to go. I drove him to the airport, kissed, said our goodbyes, and dropped him off. I went home and took a nap, woke up mid-afternoon, and half my body was numb. Wait. No, that's not a good description. The best explanation I can give is that touching any part of the right side of my body to the left felt like touching somebody else. Foreign. After going to the chiropractor for what I had thought was just a back problem, I ended up having to go to the hospital because my right side wouldn't stop seizing. I laid on my bed and called my friend Anna, who had gone to paramedic school and I knew would keep a cool head to take me to the hospital. I finally make it to the top floor, to my bedroom. Shutting the door behind me, I undress, taking longer than usual, accounting for the problem I still have with my balance. The water starts cold, but warms soon enough. I take a careful step inside and slide the door closed behind me. The warmth feels like a lover's embrace on a frigid winter's night. Standing under the water for a minute, then 2. A torrent of emotion strikes with the force of a nuclear blast. I curl up in the bottom of the shower, under the water which, until a minute ago, felt comforting. I felt terrified at this monstrous thing that had happened to me, furious that this had affected me physically, betrayed by my own body, embarrassed that I needed help, ashamed that I showed a weakness, and most importantly, I was angry at myself. I'm young, I'm relatively healthy. Why me? Why me? Why me? On the shower floor, my tears flowed freely, my heart hammering in my chest. I was shaking so badly. I had chills, and just this blanket of darkness seemed to envelop my entire world. Nothing was gonna be or would ever be all right again. All the negative things that had ever happened in my past, my failures, all the emotions, each and every one that had been evoked by those occurrences were brought back and amplified. How could I be left alone in my time of crisis? Why wasn't Mike here for me now? He had been there at the beginning of our relationship when my grandfather had died. Why couldn't he be there for this? That was the longest shower of my life. All things that should have been logical or have made sense didn't. My days went by, each and every one opened that void, that chasm. I would skip days of school and lay in bed for hours. I'd lay in bed searching for sleep throughout those quiet, empty hours, always exhausted, but never finding that which was always out of reach. I closed myself off from even my greatest of friends, which furthered my seclusion. when I probably needed people around me the most. My best friend, Ron, of 20 years, has always been someone I went to with everything, but this thing made it seem like I couldn't help him, or I couldn't tell him. I felt this deep shame that I didn't want to let people know about. Even communication with my parents dropped to almost nil when I had always spoken to my mom at least a couple times a week. Mike came back from deployment 6 months later, as all sailors do, to a large crowd pierside. I was happy to have him back for good, but something was just off. I closed myself off with him. We stopped doing all the things normal couples do, like dates or even watching TV together. There was distance there. Little things bugged me to the nth degree. Simple outings turned into full-scale arguments. Hell, I'd even fly into a rage just looking at him while driving. All these things were held in and bottled up, way past the point anybody should have to endure alone. There's something you should understand. Mike is the simple guy, way different from anyone I've ever dated before. He gets me though. Sure, we argue, but he's mine to argue with. Mike puts up with me at my best and my worst. We have this caring relationship where we love unconditionally. This attack from the inside, I guess you could call it, changed that for me. Mutilated my view of this wonderful guy who treats me right and twisted me into this person who resented every little action or sentence that didn't fit my ideal. I can remember one defining moment. A few months after he had come home, Mike and I had an argument about something trivial. Meaningless, really, but it ate me up inside to the point where I laid in bed through a weekday morning after he had left for work. I had this nagging thought. Life would be much better for everyone if I wasn't here. I kept thinking about the gun we have locked in the closets, and the gun safe in our closet. That glistening black metal with the easily workable slide. The box of bullets is so easily accessible. All it would take is just one of those bullets, load it into the clip, and pull the trigger. But if I miss, I could be stuck as a vegetable and not be able to finish it. Then my thoughts turned towards the mostly full pill bottles of muscle relaxers I had received while I was in the hospital. If I took all of those, it wouldn't hurt when I slip off and stop breathing. I looked over at my dogs lying in bed watching me. I can't leave them. Suicide would be such a cop-out. How could I even think of this? I pulled myself out of bed. That felt like my greatest accomplishment since this whole ordeal began. About 3 months later, around November, I finally made the decision to join the workforce again, being over a year after I had separated from the Navy. Mike backed me 100%. I think he got tired of the moping around. I applied for many positions. However, the only work that was offered was a job in retail. And when you're depressed, never work retail. Especially around holidays. I was seasonal. It was a position to help out from November up until the end of inventory in the middle of January. So I couldn't make it home because seasonal hires don't get the liberty to take time off. My family means the world to me, so it struck a nerve that I couldn't go home. I ended up quitting before the holidays, but was able to find a job the same day walking dogs. Dogs, the happiest things in the world, I found out, were the best therapy for my depression. That unconditional love and devotion feels almost supernatural, in a sense, because it has the ability to heal, or at least jumpstart the process for me. I'd spend the hours of my day walking them, and in return, they're just themselves. That pure, unadulterated happiness is contagious to be around all the time. I found that I could use that serenity and roll with it to help pull myself up from rock bottom. One of my clients in particular really helped me to face and start to deal with that dark, inconceivable weight. He's a beautiful golden retriever. His parents live downtown in one of those magnificent high-rises on Park Street. His name? Ed Earl. He put up with me for 45 minutes a day, 7 days a week. I'd listen patiently, metaphorically and quite literally pulled me through the rough patches and loved unconditionally. The time spent with him, honestly, saved my life. After Ed Earl's dad recovered from his surgery, enough to be able to take him for walks again, it was adios. But that time will forever stick with me. My relationship with Mike, my friends, and family improved. Contact gradually resumed to an almost normal level. Depression leaves a scar. It was this barbed thing that stayed in until I faced it head on. When I decided to rip it out, it wrenched this irreplaceable mask out of the original body. The skin grows back, but that scar is a constant reminder that that initial part is gone. I just tried my best to move on from it. Nowadays, I'm able to let people back in to be my continued support, and that's good enough for me. I still may not be back at 100%, but I will tell you this, I am well and lively.